Hi, everybody. Welcome to Capital to the Coast BNI. My name is Mike Manning. Each week, we bring you a local small business success story from one of our 40 plus chapters, stretching from the Raleigh Durham area we call the Triangle all the way to Wilmington and points in between. So, Capital to the Coast. If you're not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. And our job each week as a member to help our fellow members grow their business. So our local small business success story today is Robin Sarine, Ruby Bird Design. Robin is in RD14 called Carpex. They meet Wednesdays at noon at Capitol Center in Raleigh. Robin, how are you today?
I'm great, thanks.
Glad to have you on the show. So you've been doing this about 5 years,
Yes.
but in BNI, Robin is the outgoing president. And Robin, I believe I've told you and other people that the happiest people in BNI are the outgoing presidents.
It's been a really good year, so I've really enjoyed it.
I like the attention to details that your chapter has had because it's been a couple of struggles, a couple of successes during the year, but you and Caitlin and many of the other leadership team members stayed on it. And I think you guys are starting to accomplish kind of what you thought you would get to, right?
Yeah, I think what we found when this leadership team
Mhm.
came into play about a year ago now was that our members didn't have a really good understanding of the importance of Power of One,
Mm.
the importance of logging in what you were already doing, and once we started putting that out there, and we didn't say, okay, let's focus on the whole Power of One, but we talked about, okay, let's focus on referrals for a few
Yeah.
months. Let's focus on CEUs. That felt like low hanging fruit to me. And so we were able to really move the needle. So we're really excited. We celebrated a couple of weeks ago because when we first started a year ago, we were third from the bottom ranked.
Yep.
And we came out second from the top. So we were really excited about that. Who knows if we'll stay there forever, because I definitely challenge other groups to do the
Mhm.
same thing.
Yep.
Um, but we were really excited about that progress, and we had a good number, over half, in the green,
Yep. Yep.
which was really exciting. So
And
yeah.
and Power of One is one of the analytics that BNI tracks for individual members, and it's 5 categories, each one worth 20 points, and it's attendance, one-to-ones, visitors, referrals given, and CEUs.
Yeah.
So it's just like anybody's business. Are you tracking the metrics to understand what is working, what doesn't work, and the fact that Robin in her chapter focused in on that, grew, added a couple of members, started
Yeah.
passing. My guess is Robin started passing much better referrals and grew some
That
relationships.
yeah, I would say that people were logging in their great referrals a little bit better. And thank you for closed
Mhm.
business. It's like they were doing what we were supposed to do because it comes natural to a lot of them. But they just weren't logging it in. So
Yep.
then once we moved into this focused attention,
Mhm.
uh, I think people started understanding how to make referrals if that was something they were
Yep.
struggling with. So we had, several people that were in people's homes, and they started thinking, oh wait, I could actually educate them on other
Mhm.
things and be a resource, and that makes me look better. And so we had a lot of people kind of realize that that was the best way to move forward for them. So that has netted our somewhat small group, comparatively speaking, within BNI, but that's netted us to $1 million in
Yeah.
revenue, shared revenue with each other. Thank you for closed business this year. So we're really excited.
Nice. And the analogy of what Robin and her chapter did with, oh, I'm in the house, so Mrs. Smith, and you carry on a conversation is client retention. If you
Mhm.
look at it, because when you're meeting with a client, if you get to know them and you start talking, oh, so what are your plans for the rest of the year? Oh, we're going to travel or we're going to do this, and but we don't know what to do with our dog. And poof, right there you go. You know what? I've got a wonderful pet sitter. Happy to introduce you to them if you need them.
Mhm.
And just like with any client you have, are you truly listening to what they need, what they're looking for, or you just a transaction, I'm in and out, gotta go, I got 4 more stops, or you taking, Robin, what, 8 minutes max, maybe just to chat for a second? Hey, now that the
Right.
kitchen's finished, and you have conversations with your clients. Oh, by the way, Redbird Design specializes in kitchen and bathroom renovations and remodeling. So I know when you're with your client, you hear the other thing. Yeah, Robin, this is the first step. And we
Mhm.
also want to do X, Y, and Z. And it gives you a great opportunity to offer an introduction, doesn't it?
Yeah, and sharing stories like that, I think really helped other people realize, oh, okay, I was able to share a story about a potential client. I was there for their kitchen. They walked me into their bathroom. I immediately realized there was mold situation there that needed to be
Ooh.
remediated. And so the person that holds our mold remediation seat in our group was on it immediately. So within 24 hours, they had someone there taking a look at it. And I told the group, I'm really confident that that's one of the reasons that I gained the business. It's because they knew
Yeah.
they could trust that I was not just going to take care of what I was there to take care of, but I was going to take care of them as a family. And
Yeah.
so that I think spurred on some other people and other stories like that to make referrals and realize that they were really going to be presenting themselves as a resource.
Mm.
And that resource part of them is what was going to gain the business from people because that's what people really appreciate.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
and folks, to your clients, just they need to know you're a resource,
Right.
not just a transaction. Because if you're just a transaction, they may or may not call you back. But if you're a
Right.
resource and you're actually listening to them, it's kind of a
Yeah.
relationship, right? You
Right.
need to listen. So good for you,
Yeah.
Robin. Good.
Yeah, and I had another one where a couple, his in-laws were moving to the area, so he had bought them a house as a future investment property. So I said to him, "Do you have a good estate attorney in this area? Because you're going to want to, make
Mm,
sure that that's now within your estate." He said, "No, actually, I don't." So it's like those types of conversations where you're just in someone's kitchen and they're sharing the information, and you
mm,
go, I've got somebody for that." But it does, you do have to train yourself to think that way
mm.
if you're not a natural networker. So if you're a natural networker, you just hear stuff and you're like, how can I help you? But if you're
Right.
not, if that doesn't come as your second nature, then you have to practice that more. And that's what some of our people have really been working on and doing a great job. And it shows.
Yep, and that's also a business growth opportunity because now Robin's got at least 2 very happy clients. So now when they refer Robin to somebody, they can say, "Oh, yeah, by the way, let me tell you what else she did for us." And then that
Right.
if the deal wasn't closed by then, it usually is when they say, "Oh, yeah, and she also helped us with this." So for
Right.
your clients, folks, and for just you gotta listen because they'll tell you if you spend enough time with them, they'll like just easy questions. "Oh, what's your fall like?" Or "Do you have plans for the holidays?" or
hmm
something. And they'll
hmm
tell you something that if you know a pet sitter, a landscaper, they're, old people like me and my wife, and we're not going to hang our Christmas lights and they need their Christmas lights hung. Something, right? They'll
yes.
tell you something. I promise you that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
all right. So, I always like to hear how company names came about.
Yep.
And I know you shared this with me. It's been a while, but as I was reading back over, doing my intel on you over the weekend, still love the story. So tell us how Ruby Bird Designs came through.
Yes. So I had a great Aunt Ruby who was, um, her gift was hospitality. She would bake pies and cakes and put them out on the back porch with plates and forks and let people just stop by. She didn't even have to be there. She made the best strawberry cake and took the recipe to her grave. Never shared it with
Mm,
anyone. We've all tried to figure it out. We're close. But she was just an amazing woman. She was also a resilient woman. She had been through quite a bit in her life, and we just loved her. My daughter's middle name is Ruby. And so when I was thinking about this company and what I would name it, that her name came to my mind, just with her,
mm,
past in the kitchen. And then the bird is after my own name, so I'm Robin, so Robin Bird. And then I didn't want it to be Ruby Bird Kitchens,
Yep.
because I knew that one day I might move into something else with it. And so I chose design because that kind of really kind of encompasses everything. What I found is that most companies out there are remodels companies, or construction companies. Not many marry the two together. So have design and remodeling together. Most of the time, people kind of have to bring their own ideas, and then the construction company says, "Yeah, we'll do whatever you want." But for Ruby Bird Design, you're really getting everything from start to finish, design to the finished product, and I'm involved all the way through.
And I like that. Give some thought, and you didn't overdo it or overthink it because you've seen companies like this where they pick a 14-letter Greek or Latin word that means the 92 things they want to stand for in their business, and nobody can pronounce the name and they can't spell it, and they end up not remembering it. So
Right,
well
right.
done. It's simple, it's clean, and it's got a story.
The only hiccup is that a lot of clients, when they first meet me, think my name is Ruby. So we work through that and it's fine.
I am sure every time they ask you that, your aunt is smiling from above, right?
Yeah, right.
So,
Yeah.
so what's the bet? Give us a quick best Aunt Ruby story, other than leaving the food on the front porch, which is outstanding, by the way.
Yeah, it would be her hugs. When you
Uh,
came to visit her, she had a really long driveway and she knew you were coming. And so she'd come out and meet you and just give you the biggest hug. And it was one of those ones that just enveloped, and
yeah,
it was strong and it lasted for a while, which was so, yeah,
nice.
that's what you remembered about Aunt Ruby.
Did your kids get much time with her?
No, neither one of them
Oh,
ever got to meet her. Yeah.
bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My husband got to meet her before she passed away, but she passed away like the first year of our marriage, I think. So it's
Oh,
been a
wow.
long time.
Okay.
Yeah, about 27 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good story.
Mhm.
Love those. Yep. Love those aunts and uncles and grandma and
Yeah.
grandfather stories. So very good.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So your previous careers, and we'll get into that in a little bit, were
Mhm.
not in the design world.
No. Not
So
in remodeling.
how did Ruby Bird Design, even before you came up with a name, how did those conversations and thoughts, where'd they come from? How'd they get started?
Yeah, so I was in business management
Mm,
and client management essentially for about 20 years. And I left that field to take care of a family member. And when it was time for me to get back into working, I found it difficult to get back into the corporate world. And and then I started really thinking through, is that what I wanted? Did I want to get back into corporate world? And it was actually, so a friend of mine was starting a company very similar to this, and I had, helped her out for a little while, and was just really there until I got my next gig, if you will. And then as that became obvious that that wasn't where my love was anymore. My husband was the one that said, "What if this became your full-time career?" And I was like, "No, this is not my full-time career. I have a plan. It's very clear to me what that is." And he just kind of looked at me like, "Really?" And so I took 2 weeks to really just think on it and pray, and didn't talk to anyone about it. I just wanted to be by myself thinking about it. And I remember when I was kind of complaining, thinking, what would I even name this? That Ruby Bird design came right to my head, and I thought, oh, all right, so we're doing this. And I often say that I got the answer no several times during my interview process, at different corporations, because when the answer was yes, it was so clear and I could hear it. Because I never would have dreamed to have a job like this, to have my own company. That was not where I was in my head. And so I love it, and it's so much better. And so I'm really happy that this is the direction I've moved in. It's also really cool. I've got, two young adult kids that see that mom had a fabulous career, and now mom has a second
mm.
fabulous career, and you can do that. And love what you're doing. both times, right? And be happy at what you're doing. And I think that's an important message for young people to enjoy what you're doing
Mhm.
and don't be afraid of switching it up midlife.
Yeah, and you learned early that, owning your own business is not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not. No. But I was used to, obviously, I didn't own my own business because I worked for corporations, but I had a lot of autonomy and I did a lot with building different
Mm.
businesses for the company. And so to me, that wasn't as scary as I think it is for other people. And having that business background, I remember the first time that I met the accountant that I have, I said, well, you're my first department. I was so used to having departments, I'm like, I am all the departments right now. And
I like that.
so it was, I really had to build, and that's where BNI came in for me as well, like bringing me the support that I needed. I mean, I think within my first few weeks, someone had referred me to a lawyer that specialized in construction, so that I could have, a solid contract for clients. Um, I was, the second I needed a carpenter, one was, shared with me within a BNI.
Mm.
The second I needed a replacement painter, the BNI was there with a referral for me. So for me, it was like, even though I actually grew up in this area, but I had not done construction, right? And so I wasn't in that world. And so I needed those type of
Mm.
people in my life. And so that's been really positive for me within BNI.
So once you took your 2 weeks of thinking, trying to get it set in your head, and, then you
Mhm.
obviously had to go to your husband and go, "Honey, you were right."
Oh,
So
absolutely.
let's
Yes.
move forward. What were the first couple things you did to get in place to get ready to open and tell the world, "Here I am"?
Well, I definitely, I will say too, after those 2 weeks, I sought wisdom from people,
Mm.
older people than me that have, been there before. I wanted to hear from them and what they thought. Some people, one that owned his own construction company was able to speak into my life too. And so that was really good for me to kind of hear from other people. Um, you know, for me, getting this company started, there wasn't a lot of overhead. And so that was much easier. I know in some cases there's a ton of overhead. And so you have to kind of think through that a little bit more. For me, it was like spray equipment, it was smaller equipment type things. And so I was able to get a few jobs through Facebook. People that knew me, people that didn't know me, that just had seen stuff, pop up, and what was interesting was it built on itself. So at first it was painting cabinets, changing out countertops and tile, just real simple facelift type situations. And then as the years have gone on, they've become more complicated. And to where I have, brought on a GC, I've brought on, HVAC vendors, so just structural issues that we've run into, so the complexity of the projects has grown over time, which is interesting. I'm glad I didn't get hit with that at the beginning. I felt like I was drowning. But at first, it was all things that I could do. And so, honestly, I was doing all of the work for probably the first, by myself, probably the first 8 months of the company. And then I think the first person I brought on was the tile installer because I had met my limit
Yeah.
on what I could do. And what was interesting was, for me, what takes me 6 hours takes him 2,
Mm.
and so it was great to be able to meet him. We joke all the time that he's like, we've known each other now for the almost the entire time that Ruby Bird Design has been in essence. So yeah.
I would imagine that you, found your limit of patience too with putting in tile and or taking
Well,
it
it
up
was a
or putting it down,
skill.
right?
There's a skill with that,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so I did not want to be a company that only offered you know, subway tile backsplashes. I wanted to be able to offer other things, and he came in right at the right time. And now, of course, we've grown into bathrooms, and he is my only tile installer and is absolutely fabulous. And we're building a home right now, and he'll be installing everything there as well. I trust him in explicitly. So yeah.
Very nice. So what were the best things you did to tell the world that you were open for business?
Definitely Facebook. And so before I had pictures, because I hadn't done anything on my own and I wasn't going to use what I had done for another company. um, I was posting articles about kitchens. I was posting anything that I posted had a picture, to try to grab the attention. I was posting things about hardware, about painting cabinets, about countertops, plumbing fixtures, anything that I could think of to kind of educate people. I bet if I went back, that would be interesting to read now because it's been 5 years ago. But it was just information for people to have to see, like, okay, this company is going to become a resource. And then after I had my first couple of jobs that I did, then I was posting the befores and afters and pushing that out with their ads and whatnot. And so that's really where it started. And then honestly, one of the first ones I did was in a neighborhood in Holly Springs, North Carolina. And now I was telling someone the other day, I'm fairly certain I've done 20 and now I'm on my 20. I've got 3 more homes coming up in that same neighborhood. And so a lot of times you get into the right neighborhood at the right age, and they need kitchen or bath remodels. And then they just kind of pass you around, your name around in the neighborhood. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember your first client?
Yes.
And your level of confidence and stress was what?
Pretty high because I had done it with my other, as far as confidence. I had done it with my friend. Like I had seen what was happening there. And the couple that I worked with were great. Actually, they still love their kitchen. They saw me not too long ago and told me how much they loved it, and that there was something. Oh, a dishwasher had overflowed, and they had to replace a few things. And so the name of their countertop just came to my mind, and I said, "It's called this. If you have to." Get it replaced. They were like, "Oh my gosh," and so yeah, it was they still love it. I have people call me just last week. Someone called me and said, "Oh, this couple referred you to me," and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I did their kitchen probably
Mm.
4 years ago." I've had situations where I did kitchens 4 or 5 years ago, and now they're calling me back for their bathrooms. So it's fun to be able to go back and see just how gorgeous it still is, and to be able to work with clients again.
Yeah, and a lot of times we as business owners don't realize that sometimes for people, our product or service is just not right now. But if
Right.
you're on the list of people to call when they're ready, 2 years, 5 years, however long, it's kinda nice though that they remembered you from a happy client.
Yeah, I tell people a lot, the business that I'm in is interesting because I don't have repeat customers,
Yep.
right? If they need a bathroom done, that there'll be a repeat at that point. But that's I wouldn't say that's a ton, right? You've invested all
Mhm.
that into your kitchen. Now you're like, I'm gonna have to wait for a while before I can do a bathroom, right? So, and I can see that, happening in the future as well, just because within this last year I've had several of those calls, right? So I don't have repeat business, so I need to get it right the first time, so that they're referring me to other people. And I also say about this business, it is a long game. There are
Yes.
times where I'm about to do a kitchen where I met the wife 2 years ago,
Mhm.
and then I met the husband a year ago, and now we're starting to, do the project. So it's a long game. People, need to get comfortable with who you are before they invest so much. And sometimes that takes people longer than others. Sometimes people lose jobs in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I did a bathroom for this one client, and then she was going to have me come in a few months later and do the kitchen, and then she gets pregnant, and then a series of other events happen, and so 2 years later we came this year and did her kitchen.
Nice.
Mhm.
What are some of the common reasons or times of life or anything like that that people call you? They're ready, they're what? Why are they calling you to redo
Oh, a
something?
lot of times the kids are out of the house,
Ah.
so nobody's going to damage anything. Yeah, that's probably, if I had to come up with something, it's probably, now everybody's out of the house, they're in college. We want the kitchen to be ours.
Mm.
We're going to take care of it. Um, a lot of times when families are expanding and they need more space, I did a kitchen a few years ago for a client. They had just had a baby and they had twins, and their kitchen, they just bought the house, the kitchen was just too small for them. And they knew that they would be growing. I think they're pregnant again, actually. I saw them not too long ago. And so we put in two large size pantries for them, moved the, lot of things around in the kitchen, took the cabinets up to the ceiling, just gave them a ton of more storage, and then an island that was longer so that everyone could fit around it. And so a lot of times it's an expanding family, or a family, even though, one might think you start to downsize after your kids leave, no one's ready to downsize yet, because you never know when those
Yeah,
kids need to come back.
they will. They
So,
will. We,
right. And
I don't,
yeah, and that's
yeah,
that's okay,
yeah.
especially the way things are right now. It's okay for them to come back. So a lot of times they just want things to look nicer. So
Yeah,
yeah.
when our youngest son left for college, his brother was a junior in college,
Uh-huh.
and I'm bragging at work one day. Both kids are out of the house, and a friend of mine said, "Slow down.
Yeah.
One of them's going to move back." And I looked at him with the utmost confidence. Not either one of my sons. And sure enough, each one of them, for a little bit, well, a
Yeah.
little window, moved back in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, rent is so high, in our area. It's very expensive. And so it's good for them to have a place to launch from, even if that launch takes two or three times, So I think that's good. I think that's part of being a family and supporting one another.
I agree. All right, so
Mhm.
we mentioned your husband a little bit earlier, and a lot of times with a successful small business, family is involved, either on the payroll or moral support, quality control, stuff like that. So your husband's name is Andy.
Mhm.
How did you two meet, and do you both tell the story the same way?
We definitely tell the story the same way. Um, we actually met in college, and so we both went to a small private Christian school in Dayton, Tennessee,
Mhm,
called Bryan College. And he came over for soccer scholarship from out west, and we met my sophomore year, his freshman year. That was back when hazing was still a thing,
mhm.
and so everyone had to wear a beanie on their head if they were a freshman, and he didn't have one on. So I went up to him and said, "Hey, where's your beanie?" And because it was such a small school that you knew if they were new kids, coming in. And he lied and said that he was a sophomore transfer. And that's how we met.
Okay. And
We became really good friends and actually double dated, and never each other. And then something just clicked. I think it was my junior year, his sophomore year.
mm,
So yeah. Mhm.
and where was the official first date?
Oh, so we actually talk about this all the time, that we think that it was a movie, but it also could have been like that's our thing. And I think part of it is because we were such good friends and we did
Mm,
everything together all the time, so it was like, it was weird to cross over and go, oh,
mm,
this was the first date. But we also went on the Alpine slide, which is like a I don't know, you ride like it's like a little tiny roller coaster. It's just you and the little thing, and in the mountains. So we went to that soon after as well. So we're not sure which one was the first date.
and when did you know you two were onto something?
It was probably within about 2 or 3 months of dating. We knew.
Good. So I'm a big fan of moment in time decisions.
Okay.
So let's look at Andy for a second. My guess is he got soccer scholarship offers from other schools, probably because he was out
I
west.
don't know the answer to that,
But he,
actually.
like, when you say out west, you mean like California, Oregon, Washington, right?
Colorado. Mhm.
Colorado. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So chances are this was not the only school that gave him a soccer scholarship, nor was this the only school that he decided, okay, I got a top three. This is one of the three. But the fact, because if he doesn't go to Brian, who are you married to now? Kids? Are you still living here? Stuff
Yeah.
like that. So for him, because that was, now you had a decision too with colleges to go to, but you were a little bit closer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I was filling out my, SAT, where to send your scores,
Mhm.
I had one blank open, and it was my dad he went
Mhm.
to a school out in Tennessee in Chattanooga called Tennessee Temple,
Mhm.
and he said there was this school that we used to play against, and it was called Bryan College. It's a solid school. You should check it out. So I was like, okay, fine. Who am I? I'm 17. And so I put that on the list essentially, and then went to visit and just fell in love.
Yep.
Met two of the friends that I still keep in touch with on that weekend, like a visitor weekend. And then still keep in touch with, like my roommate, just in touch with a lot of people. So it was a special time in both of our lives.
Yeah, but again, both of you had to make a decision
Yeah.
to because, neither one of you 2 weren't even in the same time zone as high
Right.
school seniors.
No, yeah, 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 yeah. I've often told, like our kids, when they were figuring out dating or whatever, or, wanted to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend and didn't have one, and
Yeah.
I would tell them, which I'm not sure how much they appreciated this, but I would tell them if I had to go back and do it again, I wouldn't have dated anybody. I would have just waited for your
Yeah.
dad.
Yeah.
And of course, I never would have known that, that's what I should have done, but I would tell them that all the time that I love him and wish that I had just put all of my energy into him and
Mhm.
not the other boys.
And, having raised 2 kids as well, in the moment when you told them that, they believed nothing of what you said, but as they get older, they're like, "Hey, mom, remember that time you
Mhm.
mentioned?" Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's what we get
yeah,
validation years down the
yeah. Mom and
road.
dad actually do have some wisdom to part.
You're smarter than I thought you were, yes. I
Yeah.
love those
Yeah.
conversations when your kids get older, so
Yes,
all
yes.
right, so what does today Robin tell day one Robin about, "Here's a couple things you need to look at to grow your business"? What would you have liked to have known back then that you know now?
Hmm. Um, Probably, I think I knew that I would need a team and to be okay with the transient group that I think is in construction a
Mm,
lot. To be okay with in that moment, this is the team that you have, and it may not always be that way.
mm,
And I knew that because I had managed teams and they changed over time. But I think when you're a one man show, you rely heavily on
mm.
those team members, and so I think I would have told myself to be comfortable with that happening. Um,
Yep.
and not be stressed because every single time that something, there's been a need, it's been filled immediately, and I can trust that that's going to happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of small business owners or people that get into small business ownership don't realize you have to give up something to succeed.
Hmm.
It's a little bit of
Hmm.
control, it's whatever, but you can't do everything unless
Right.
you were gonna do unless you decided to be Robin, I install everything. It's minimal, but
Yeah.
I install everything. You were never gonna grow.
I was never going to go. Right. And so now I'm so sorry. I have a dog that lives here with me. Sorry about that. Um, so we just want to stop soon. I think someone knocked on the door. Um,
Hope they're delivering a
so
nice Amazon package for you. So,
yeah, sorry about that.
no worries.
Um, Lily, she's the cutest dog ever.
Okay.
And if anyone comes to the front door, she's going to get really upset about it because it's where she thinks a stranger is going to come in.
Yep.
But if they come through the back door, she's going to love all over them.
Okay. Mm.
I'm so sorry about that.
That's okay. So when you started, as soon as you told everybody you were open for business,
Uh-huh.
so the progression or the
I'm so
evolution.
sorry. The person at the door is not going to leave. They're still knocking. I need to go and handle. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
They're not leaving. Hang on just 1 second.
Okay. All right. So a couple of things while Robin goes to take care of that, and hey, life happens, especially on live TV. From the client standpoint, folks, the fact that she talks to and listens to, and granted, there's some businesses more than others that spend time with their clients. You're a landscaper, you may never see your client. They may wave at you as you're cutting the grass. But if you're a photographer, you're a chiropractor, you're an installer, and remodeler, you're in the house, you probably have to do 2 or 3 walkthroughs. So just listen to your clients. They're gonna tell you stuff that's going on. They're gonna make a kind of a comment that you're not gonna think much of it, but pay attention to that because that's important. And then don't make them call anybody. It's like, I got a guy you need to call. No, no, no. Your answer is, hey, I have a mechanic, a chiropractor, a pet sitter, whatever. Happy to connect you if you want to talk to them. And again, there's a number of ways we can track client retention. And as I was told by a great boss many years ago, I was working at Daytona International Speedway, and we had 160,000 tickets to sell for the Daytona 500. And John Graham, our track president, told us every week, every month, it's a lot easier to keep a client than go find a new one. So, like Robin was saying, listen to your clients and then offer yourself as a resource when you need it. So, all right, Robin, everything good?
Yes, I'm
Cool.
so sorry.
No worries.
Apparently the police are looking for an elderly woman whose assistant had called, and they can't find the address for this woman, and so they
Oh,
are trying to help her, and it's somewhere on the street, so they were
okay.
not
All
leaving
right.
until someone came to the door. I
Uh,
apologize.
and you told them you're not the elderly woman they're looking for, right?
I don't know
Yeah.
who that woman
Yeah.
is. I've never heard that name.
And neither and nor are you elderly, so good. All right,
No,
so all right,
not yet.
so the evolution of your elevator pitch, you started asking for
Yes.
what and who, and now who do you ask for?
I asked to meet realtors. I have great relationships with some realtors, especially buyer's agents,
Mm,
because then I can come in on the day of inspections and really recreate what's going to happen everywhere, right? I've got a great example. Last year, I met with a client, potential client, on their inspection day. She was almost in tears because they had just moved actually out west, had come here, really only knew the realtor. And so the realtor was putting me in front of her. And she was almost in tears because it just, they had bought the house, but the house didn't look like she wanted it to. And she didn't feel like it was home. And so we ended up renovating the kitchen and 4 bathrooms and a laundry
wow.
room for her so that it felt like home. And so those are good relationships for me to have because there's always going to be someone that is in need of meeting someone like me that can help their new home look like they want it to look. So
And when you first opened, who were you asking for?
um, I was
Other than
asking.
and you can't use the word anybody, okay?
Right. I was asking to meet people, and I still do this, certain price range neighborhoods,
Huh?
certain neighborhoods that are of this age, the area that I'm looking to serve. Those are, some of the things that I was really focused on. And then, of course, like I mentioned before, a lawyer that specialized in construction, some of
Mm.
those types of things that would make my life easier. When I had very specific requests, I was able to get those filled pretty much immediately.
With the real estate market the way it is right now, and I'm not getting on a soapbox, so we're not going
Hmm.
there. Are
Hmm.
you finding that more people are staying in their home and have decided to update some things?
Yes, for sure. Most people are saying, I could invest this amount of money into this house, get it back. But in order to make, to get a house to look like I want it to look, I could never go and just buy a house and then invest even more on top of that. And that's what we're seeing. Like if they're going to buy a house, and it's especially like the millennials that are starting to buy homes,
Mm.
the home needs to look exactly how they want it to look because they don't have an extra whatever to put into it. So most people are looking to just update what they have, even to downsize. They might be downsizing in square footage, but they're not downsizing in their mortgage. So it is a tricky time. For a while, we were seeing that everyone wanted to update before they sold. And then the pendulum swung and it was sell as is. And I was working with new people that had just bought the house. I feel like a little bit more, maybe 20% adding back in of people who want to freshen it up before they sell. in this area. So it just really kind of depends on the advice that they're getting from their realtors. But I try to keep my ear to the ground on things like that so that, I can help and be a voice for realtors to clients, helping them make those types of decisions.
Well, I think I just figured out some more posts for you on social media to show that you're even more of an expert that you are than you are today.
Oh, yeah, great.
I don't think a lot of people from I know people from my generation. I can't speak for people from your generation, but I'm sure it's probably close. They don't know how millennials are thinking and Gen Z, whatever the 28-year-old is. I forgot which one that is, but that's a huge shift, and you pointed that out, and
Mhm.
I don't think a lot of people are taking that into consideration yet about, "Oh, I got a whole new batch of buyers," and they're not thinking like anybody else thought before them.
Right, right. No, they're really not, and you do have to realize who you're working with, right?
Mhm.
And what's important to them. So yeah, yeah. I mean, I've got a client coming up. They just need to refresh the cabinets. That's all they're doing. That's what their realtor told them to do. But then I've got people that are, we've lived here for 20 years. We were the people that built this house, and now we want, it's 20 years old and we need to redo our kitchen. So it really does run the gamut. Mhm.
Alright, so help me out here with something. Let's talk about sellers based on
Mhm.
what you know, and you got a
Mhm.
decent sample size on this. Is we all have friends that are putting their house up for sale and like, "Oh, I'm gonna make these changes." And my first thought is on a couple of those they mentioned, it's like, I don't think that chandelier you wanna put in is the right investment. So what have you found for people that are, if interest rates do tick down and people decide, "Okay, we can now afford a mortgage at whatever rate," what kind of things should they do to their house? And what shouldn't
Well,
they do to their house?
it's everyone's going to look at the kitchen and the primary bath. Those are the two areas. And you just have to decide with, I think, with your realtor, how much you want to invest and are you going to get that back? Because and whatever you do, it needs to be neutral
Yeah,
because,
thank
the
you.
next person coming in,
Mm,
I think that I think that if you do things neutral, the next person coming in is going to be happy with that.
mm,
Um, I think if you did something where you get a little specific and it's something you love, like a blue shower or something like that, um, you run the risk of someone walking in going,
yeah,
I don't know if I can handle that, So I think if you do a neutral update, then you're good to go. People tell me all the time, like, I have this idea, they're showing me, posts from Instagram, and I just say to them, as long as you're not leaving, you can do whatever you want.
mm,
But I will often tell people, look, I meet lots of people who thought that they would be in their house for the next 20 years, and then something happens with their employment that changes, and they need to make some serious, cutbacks and changes, and leave, because maybe they got a job in another state. So you never know
yeah,
when you're going to move, and so you just need to be careful about putting things in that would be difficult, would be more expensive. It's one thing to paint your cabinets kind of a wild color and the next person comes in, they can just, or you can just paint your cabinets, something
yeah.
calm before selling the house. But if you put in like a wild backsplash or something like that, then people are like, I'm going to have to spend money on
Mhm.
having to update that.
Which could affect, okay, I know you listed this house at 450, but clearly we're gonna have to make some changes, so 420,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden they lost the 30 grand or 20 grand they put into the what they consider
Yeah.
upgrades.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, for example, in that neighborhood that I told you earlier, that they've got like 20 homes at this point that I've probably redone. um, I will say to them oftentimes, let me show you some pictures
Mm,
of your neighbors' homes. Because in a few years, when you go to sell, this is what you're selling against.
mm.
And so, because I know, because I did them. And so that helps people go, okay, I really do need to update something here. We want to enjoy it for a few years and then we'll sell and we'll be competitive against our neighbors.
Yeah, because sometimes you hear, "Oh, they did upgrades."
Yes.
Until you see them, you don't know if
Right.
that's good or bad, right?
Right. 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 And I'm literally showing them with
Mm,
names and like, oh, we know the Smiths, we'll get them a call, go over
mm.
and look at their kitchen, then you can really see what's happening. So,
Nice. I like
yeah.
that. All
Hmm.
right, so one quick question before I go. I was remiss when we're talking about your tenure at Bryan College, where you graduated cum laude. Congratulations. show off for all of you that did show off. Yeah. So your major was in counseling psychology. So what
Yes.
was the plan the first day?
Let me tell you how often that comes in real handy when you are doing kitchen remodels with a husband and wife. And I will also often say, "Listen, we're not going to solve this today. You're in luck. I do have my undergrad in psychology,
Yep.
and I can help you through this, or at least refer you to someone." No, so what I was going to do with it is counsel children,
Mm.
and the county that we were in Tennessee, um, unfortunately, had a really high rate of unfortunate things happening within families. And I started seeing signs of that in the schools when I was there. And my heart just broke. And the answer was, well, you start to get used to that. And I thought, nope, no, I'm not going to get used to that. That is going to bother me all the time. And so I realized I needed to go into something, completely different. And so, yeah, but I have definitely used that degree.
I would imagine you've run across a husband and wife that who is going to make the final decision, right? You probably
Yes.
you have a good sense of reading the couple, no matter
Yep.
what the other one says,
Yes.
whose vote is not going to win. You kind
Yes.
of learn to who to listen to, right?
Yes, yes. And I have made I do obviously I need to set myself up as the person that's going to help guide us through the process, because if I sense that we're just going to have like a one of those standoffs each time we have to make a decision, this may not be the right client, to work with, and that's okay with me, right? But most of the time I can set it up for, and I speak the truth and can deliver that pretty honestly, and so I'm able to do that, and that gains respect up front. But I have told a couple of people, you got your hands full, right?
Mm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
With that spouse of yours, and just kind of make light of it and then join them where they are, and, figure out how to come to the table and decide on what's going to look beautiful. And a lot of times, the person that likes to make the decisions is the person that spends the most time cooking. And
Mm.
that's not always the wife. And so I think in our family, it's definitely 50-50, right? And so I think that's important to hear, because husbands are looking for the kitchen to be useful to them, and wives are as well, but the husbands think of it a little differently, and so it's always fun to work with whoever is going to be making those decisions, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so real quick, for people who want to get into your industry, so I'm assuming you got a design gene from somebody in your family.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So somebody got that design gene from a family member and they really want to do this. What should they think about if they want to start their own business in your world?
They need to shadow. They really need to come and shadow. I've actually helped some people just right out of design school get jobs at some of the companies that I use. Either countertops or tile or whatever, just so they can see the industry, see if this is something they love, and then what does it look like for them to start a company on their own. What are they trying to do? So if it's strictly design, I introduce them to designers who are strictly design, and so I think that's really important for them to see how it works before starting a company. And it was a blessing for me to be able to see, how this world worked, of design and remodel all in one place.
Very nice. All right, so we've been putting Robin's phone number up on the screen, Ruby Bird Design. Give us your website, Robin.
Oh yeah, it's rubybirddesign.com.
All right, you can go see some wonderful pictures and a little more information on the company.
Yeah, and you can
Um,
find me on social
yeah,
media: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn,
all at Ruby Bird.
all at Rubybird. Yes,
Nice.
Rubybird Design.
I
Yep.
do I do like the name. Love the story on that. So, anyways, enjoyed having you on the show today.
Yes.
I'm assuming the holidays you start getting more questions about, oh, once the new year rolls
Yep.
around, right?
Mhm,
Okay, all
mhm,
right.
mhm. Yeah,
So,
most people don't want you, in their kitchen at Christmas, or Thanksgiving, but we're still finishing things in between the two. That happens a lot, so that they've got a new kitchen by Christmas. But yes, this is the time where people are starting to plan for the new year.
All right. Well, if you want a new kitchen by Christmas, you better go to Ruby Bird Design right now and get your meeting set up with Robin so she can put you on her calendar. Robin,
Yes.
enjoyed having you on the show. Thanks for the stories and best of luck the
Yeah.
rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much.
And we will see everybody next time on Capital to the Coast BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.